Hey guys, it's Vince with Mastering the Method, and today I'm inside of MakerBot print software. And the reason I'm in here, you can see I've got a partial roll of PVA filament drying with some Deskin packages. The reason I'm doing this, first I want you to pay close attention to that the method shows as idle. And on beneath that, it shows chamber temperature at 90 degrees Celsius. I know many of you out there are going, well, how is that possible? You certainly can't do that through CloudPrint or the firmware of the method. And you'd be correct, even with the firmware update that happened yesterday where they decided to go through and adjust all the menu settings, which came out real nice. The reason I keep working with Simplify, guys, and I can't emphasize this enough, is because of features like this. If you come into Simplify, and right now I'm in the machine control panel, and you can see that my experimental and my extruder 2X, they're slightly heated. The only reason this is happening is from the ambient air within the heated chamber of the method. If you look at the heated chamber, it shows 90 degrees Celsius, yet there's no temperature reading, and of course we don't have the LED illuminated. And this is only because Simplify has got to go in and make some development changes with their engineers, and they're going to just adjust some settings. However, the software does let end users set this temperature for the heated chamber at whatever temperature the end user would like. Now I want you to think about that, because I did. And after discussing with Simplify this feature, this transforms this printer, number one, into end users typically being able to dry filament in 24 hours, maybe to 10 to 12 hours with different temperature ranges based on the end user's preference. The way it should be. That's what I feel. Everybody else is different. Everybody has their own preference. But if you look here, even though that, like I said, the temperature reading is not correct, if you go into MakerBot print software, you can, of course, see it's reflected correctly. If I was to hit set, I want to just show you what happens to the MakerBot print software. You can see it says running, and it's just confirming that everything is set. Now, the experimental and the extruder 2X settings do work as designed. Of course, and I want to bring this up because I know many people out there, and I've seen videos which really are kind of ignorant to the sense of how software works. Let me explain what I'm talking about. You'll see end users where they'll say, well, Simplify is buggy. Let's define buggy, okay? If you actually purchase motion control software dedicated to one robot, manufactured by that manufacturer of the robot, it should not be buggy. When you buy open source software that's delegated to multiple robots, in this instance, I mean literally hundreds of different 3D printers, it's virtually impossible for software engineers out of the box to get every setting correct. This is where understanding this technology really jumps leaps and bounds in terms of how end users interpret what's actually going on. To me, as an end user, like many of you, to have this heated chamber setting not actually reading for this, but you're able to set the heated chamber temperature, this is a feature that is amazing. I mean, I can dry filament as you can in a much shorter amount of time. So when you look at this in comparison to what's going on with using the firmware within the method where they limit you on set temperatures, they limit you on set times. This changes everything, guys. At any point in time, I could even reduce the temperature like any of you and hit set, and it would reduce the chamber temperature. Okay? All I did was utilize the movement controls here, and you got your Z and everything else, and these all naturally communicate with the printer, allow me to adjust the height of the print bed, no different than running it within the firmware to actually dry the filament. And realistically, you just set the temperature of the chamber and you're all set. Now, you got to weigh the advantages here. I mean, I've already showed you in previous videos with Simplify, you can extend and use the full print volume using one extruder with the method, a highly sought after feature many people have asked for. Now I'm showing you how you can increase the chamber temperature to dry filament much faster. Let me tell you what, when you guys are using nylon carbon fiber, this temperature adjustment is massive. Even if you were to run 110 degrees Celsius for maybe an hour or two and then just drop the temperature down, you would still get amazing results in comparison to being stuck at 70 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. Again, most end users are going to see the huge benefit in this, and that's why I wanted to show it. But looking at this, is amazing. Now, how did I do this? Many of you were asking. Well, you're going to come in here, and you're going to go to Process, and you're going to come over here to where it says Temperature, and you're going to go to Heated Chamber. Okay? And again, right now it says Heated Chamber. What you would want to do is set from Heated Chamber to Heated Build Platform, because again, in Simplify, it's supporting so many different printers. Most have Heated Build Platforms. You will adjust your temperature type to Heated Build Platform, and then once that's done, you would want to actually save that as a new profile. Once you do that, and the only reason I say save it as a new profile is you'll have a separate setting saved up here that you can go to. So again, it just makes things easier. It's totally up to the end user, and you're all set with that. Once that's done, you will want to come into your tools again, and you'll want to come over here to Add New. And when you add new, it'll pop up a screen like this. This will help you establish a connection with your 3D printer. Click Next to provide the information required to initiate the connection. You'll click Next. Then you'll select which one of these printers you want to set up. Now, my method was already set up, so of course I have a couple here that you can actually select. I set it up under MakerBot Method X, and then once you do that, it'll connect to the printer. It'll allocate all those settings in terms of the machine control panel, so it can take registering of what you set temperatures at, and then you should be set. And then as far as actually following through and testing everything, it's a joke. Bring up your MakerBot print software, bring up your machine control panel, hit set, and watch your chamber temperature climb. So again, very, very powerful features here, guys. I cannot tell you enough, and many of you realize what I'm showing you. Like I said, this software for me personally and my business has been a game changer. Seeing things like this is really hard to define when we have a printer of this caliber and we lack all of the open source support that we need, and yet, you know, the manufacturer has been totally non-existent. I hope end users that purchased a new, larger size method, they get support better than we do from the manufacturer. But looking at this, it really is amazing what can be done. So again, I hope it's answered any of your questions that you've had in terms of what the method is capable of. Again, this really changes the game as far as drying your filament faster. Another thing I want to point out, and this is something that's very powerful, is that you can adjust the height of the print bed. Now let me explain what that means. We know that the chamber temperature right now is at 90 degrees Celsius. I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to cut this portion shortly and show you guys on the printer settings itself what the build plane temperature is. But keep in mind, you can lower this print bed just by coming over here to movement controls and going down on your Z-axis. And by doing so, you can increase how many spools you're drying at once. Now, of course, they're not going to be in direct alignment with the fans, but the chamber temperature is still holding at 90 degrees Celsius. So that means anything within that chamber is going to be at that temperature. So amazing options, guys. Amazing options.
Okay, guys, I'm in front of the printer now, and I'm using the new firmware that was released yesterday. And you can see if I come under System Settings, and then I go under Sensor Info. See? Now I'm hoping you guys can see that the build plane temp is 107 degrees Celsius, and the build plane target temp is 107 degrees Celsius. So keep in mind, if you had multiple rolls of filament, all we would do, as I stated earlier, is drop the build plate and just stack the filament. So you essentially have your full printer dryer now that you can dry multiple rolls of filament easily too. So keeping that in mind, I know the Method XL has a heated build plate, or at least that's one of the things they're discussing. And again, one of the things I want to point out, because this is just a point of logic, I have this temp set at 90 degrees Celsius. We are looking at, once again, 107 degrees Celsius on the build plane. The build plane, of course, is right where the build plate is. Now, I'm asking everyone out there, if the chamber is heated to 107 degrees, or at least where it's going to actually print to, then we know that that build plate, regardless of it being heated as a separate unit or not, is going to be the same temperature. I don't know what the whole point of them saying that the larger method actually has a heated build plate, because the whole idea of a heated chamber is that everything within the chamber is that temperature. So again, I'm just looking at this from a logical perspective, but as I said earlier, knowing what you guys have available in resources, this is the newest firmware, and you can see how they laid everything out. This makes things so much neater. We'll come in, and again, extruder settings, you can click on that. Now it's got everything isolated to all of the different settings for extruders, so they try to group everything now. Build plate settings, assisted leveling, raise and lower build plate. But again, this is the ultimate game changer, I believe. I would say starting out with a drying cycle at 90 degrees Celsius or even 110 degrees Celsius, depending upon how wet your filament is and the type of filament. If you're dealing with nylon carbon, you can easily go up to 110. I would drop it after every maybe 2 hours and drop it down to 90 at maximum and leave it at that for, you know, if you need 24 hours, do it. Most won't, especially if they're at least using their bays on their method at all. But keep in mind, filament that is really bad at absorbing moisture, PVA namely, you definitely want to go as hot as possible. And again, I'm running mine right now. I'm just messing around at 90 degrees Celsius. Again, if I was going to do 110, I would taper it. I do 110 for maybe an hour and then drop it. And that reverse pyramid effect really works well to really just get the filament at a certain temperature and then drop it. And it's going to take a little time for that filament to drop that temperature. But in the amount of time it does, it's going to evaporate that much moisture and just naturally reacclimate to whatever temperature you've set. Thank you again, guys, for your support. Please leave some thumbs up and some comments, anything you feel you'd like to add. I'm always learning. Take care.